Self-employed. Anybody here have a parent that's maybe self-employed or had any experience being self-employed? Okay. What is your experience with the whole self-employed?
Well, my dad's self-employed and I'm self-employed.
What have you done that's been self-employed, or what kind of business are you and your dad in?
My dad owns a company called Physicians Total Care.
Yeah.
Which he basically sells medication directly to the doctor rather than having to, the doctor, instead of the doctor sending the person to the pharmacy,
yeah,
they can just give them their prescription right then and there.
Do you feel like, what's the benefit that you feel like from your dad's perspective? Like, why does he enjoy it?
He enjoys it because he was a lawyer for the first half of his life and was tired of people telling him what to do.
Tired of people hating him.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, the benefit, I'm going to say, if you're self-employed, and I'm just going to tell you this, and it might, your dad, if you ask your dad tonight, I think he'll agree with me, but I would ask him this. But I would say that taxes are the number one benefit that you guys would experience if you're self-employed, whether through farmers or anywhere else you go.
Yep.
Taxes is the big thing. And I'll just give you an example on this. Essentially, I took an annual salary of $100,000, okay, as an executive. I take $100,000 a year. Anybody here have any idea what the taxable rate on this would be, roughly?
40%.
40%. Okay, so I'm going to say times 0.4. Basically, I'm going to pay 40 grand of tax. So what I would encourage you to write down, if this is new information to you, is if you make 100 grand in the corporate world, you actually make 60 grand. Does that make sense? Because I don't care what you say you make, it's what you keep. Robert Kiyosaki wrote that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I kind of reference up here for good reading material. But essentially, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So if you're going to go pay the medical bills, you're going to go take your wife out to eat, you can't do it using the money that you made. You have to use the money you keep. So taxes is the big thing. Okay? How this works in the self-employed world, though, is if you take a salary of $60,000 a year, okay? So you own your own farmer's branch, you take 60 grand a year is what you. But then you go out and you go ahead and get the car, the corporate car, and let's just be extravagant for a second. Let's just say that you decide, okay, I'm going to get a nice car for my company car. I don't know what that'd be. I drive an '84 Brown van because I bought it for $1,000 and I get like 59 cents a mile. That's kind of my deal. I'm on deductions, so I'm coming out well. But let's just say you buy your wife a new Jeep or something like I did. So you get the Jeep. I can write off about $325 a month if I wanted to make a car payment. But because I am fundamentally against car payments, I'm just going to take the mileage. Okay? So my wife takes 10,000 miles in the car. I can write off 59 cents a mile. So I can write off $5,900 on her car this year alone, just on her car. Then on her cell phone, we want to do unlimited text, unlimited calling, unlimited whatever. So we'll go ahead and get, it's $100 a month, whatever. We're going to go ahead and get $1,200 on her phone. Then we want to go on one vacation a year to discuss insurance, in Cancun or whatever. We have to have our one annual meeting. So we go on our corporate meeting, you can take so you got your, your meeting. Anyway, all this stuff, you didn't have to pay tax on this stuff, right? Because it's all a business expense. And then you still can use this money. So what I'm saying is that you can use a lot of this for corporate things, and the reason why government gives you the ability to do that is because they feel as though if you're self-employed, there's probably a good chance you're employing people. Whereas if you're an employee, you're probably not creating too many jobs. That's the theory. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's just their theory. So you can write off a lot more. So benefit number one, taxes. Is there another benefit you can think of to being self-employed from your perspective?
Not really. The only way I look at it is I've worked for people for so long.
Yeah.
The second I got self-employed, I don't really ever want to work for somebody again.
I will tell you, when I jumped from employee to self-employed, it was a scary time. I remember sitting there in my apartment. I got this great idea, but I had no money. So I'm on the phone calling up Yellow Pages and stuff and trying to make some money. And it was really scary, but now having done it, I'm the same way. But I'm just going to say, again, the overall chi in being able to set your own schedule and just being able to control your own destiny, I feel is a benefit. As far as a negative, though, the reason why you wouldn't want to be self-employed, does anybody want to chime in here? From your perspective, you worked in the corporate world for a long time. Is there, from your perspective, looking at positive or negative, is there a thing where you'd go, this would not be, I think insurance is a bad deal. For me, like health, medical insurance, self-employed is kind of my, I'm going to put insurance. Was there anything else you'd like to say, I guess, from your perspective, having... There might be a drawback to self-employment, or?
No, self-employment. Having a side business is definitely an advantage tax-wise. One disadvantage might be one advantage could be the hours worked, but that could also be a disadvantage. But you seem to be a little more motivated when you're self-employed to put in the time for you rather than putting in the time for somebody else.
There we go. I think what he said is a pretty astute observation. One thing I'll tell you, Napoleon Hill is the author of this book called Think and Grow Rich, and he was the apprentice for Andrew Carnegie. And everything I learned, I kind of read from that book, and then it kind of grew from there. But he talks about, in order to really achieve, you have to burn your bridges behind you. The exact opposite of what everybody else always tells you. He says, burn your bridges and retreat so you can't go back. And if you can't go back, you'll win. Andrew Carnegie said, put all of your eggs in one basket and make sure no one kicks over your basket. I'm going to say that as far as a negative, just to sum that up though, insurance could potentially be a scary thing if you're starting out. I also think the negative thing is going to be your hours. And I agree with you, because the hours, I mean, for me, I'm the kind of guy that I will hit my goals regardless of how long it takes. 80 hours, 50 hours, 20 hours, I don't care. Self-employment, 40 hours is kind of a joke. You might work 42, you might work 75, it doesn't matter, because there's no boss, you are your boss. So unless you're really focused on a balanced life, you know, my wife makes me see my kids for an hour per day, we're married and stuff, but I tend to neglect that if she doesn't remind me, you know. So my wife kind of keeps me in check, but if you guys are single guys or something, you might want to have a life balance where you're like, after 7, I shut it off. You know, I shut down the mothership after 6, whatever you do, because otherwise, you can probably, I'm sure you've ran into that before, you start working every waking hour kind of thing. So, okay, moving on to the next vehicle. So you